Hey everyone, welcome back to Data and Donuts. My name's Aaron. I'm here with my friend and colleague, Brad Trimble. Today we're going to talk a little bit about professional development. But before we get into our conversation today, I'd like Bradford to tell us a little bit about himself.
Hey Aaron, thanks for having me back on Data and Donuts. My name is Brad Trimble. I am the Director of Learning and Strategy for the Research and Planning Group for California Community Colleges, most commonly known as RP Group.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being here today. And so to jump into our questions, the first question I have is, what is actionable professional development?
I feel what's most important is that the learning outcomes are something that can be used within context, right? So it's helping to ensure that we're being very pragmatic in the ways in which we're presenting materials and providing structure in a way in which folks are able to essentially plug and play with whether it's lessons learned from other processes at institutions or whether it's maybe a new way of looking at data, for example. There needs to be a lot of scaffolding involved. You can't just do this show and tell sort of approach where this is how we did it and not provide that important context about why you did it, how you overcame barriers, and how you made the most of it. Otherwise, folks just sort of get stuck, right? They think, well, what this institution did or what this group did was really cool, but I'm missing all the pieces to get it from A to B myself within my own context. Another thing is that it needs to be integrated and strategic in nature. So we need to meet people where they're at, right? And help ensure that the learning outcomes that we are providing them are integrated within the specific needs and they're being utilized strategically by folks once they're gone. So kind of back to what I was mentioning before is that it needs to be something that folks continue to interact with, and that there's this sort of what I like to call a constant interruption, right? So that you ultimately have participant ownership in the learning process, that it's not something where I'm planning to show up to this conference, I'm going to sit and listen to a 50-minute presentation, and then there's going to be a sunset and I'm going to move on, right? So scaffolding and structure, I think those are probably some of the most important ways to make professional development actionable.
Excellent. And can you share a few examples of actual professional development?
Sure. Within the past year, we've done a few new things at RP Group that we hadn't previously done. One of them was a workshop series that we offered. It was in January and February of 2022. And essentially every Friday, folks got together and we provided a Canvas course where they were able to access a bunch of pre-readings and various assessment tools that they can take back to their institution to look at the data and culture and data identity that they have on their campus as a means to help advance the institutional researchers and ultimately what we're hoping to do, right? Beyond just being data vending machines, but providing things in such a way that they provoke a lot of thought and a lot of reflection and a clear path forward. So what we did is we had a very structured learning experience both on the front end, during, and after the fact. This workshop series, we continue to meet with this group that started, gosh, we're well over 6 months now into the work, and we continue to have monthly meetings where we check in with all of the workshop participants and basically talk about, what does this look like on the ground, right? There's all these great resources and tools that you can take and use, but are you using them? Are you encountering, resistance, or is it leading to very thoughtful conversations with folks on campus? And sort of how can we help ensure that we all get to this ultimate, goal of producing these institutions that are truly focused on continuous improvement through thoughtful inquiry and planning and action. Another thing we've done are peer-to-peer discussions. So we come up with a topic every month that is essentially crowdsourced across all of our different ways of engaging with the field, whether it's the RP Group board or whether it's a workshop like I just mentioned, through the evaluations that folks are providing, giving us ideas of topics that that are important to them, that they want to cover. And what we do with these peer-to-peer sessions is we offer an exemplar, at the beginning. So maybe it's somebody or an institution that's doing something really well, and folks can learn from that. But then take it a step further, right? And have a very intentional conversation after the fact about, so what does this mean within our own context? And what barriers do you see in achieving this ultimate outcome, whether it's building a dashboard or transforming your institutional culture? How can we be a community and support each other, sort of building this community of practice, would you say? And another thing we're doing is our leading from the middle leadership community. And that's more freeform and open in nature, where folks bring specific challenges that they're facing. And there's a coaching protocol that we go through where we ask probing questions to sort of figure out the nuances of that, and don't just jump to answers, right? Well, we think you should do this. We want to make sure that we holistically understand the situation, and the group of coaches and other participants are intended to be thought partners to help walk people through their specific challenges. So those are some of the examples of recent professional development that we've done at RP Group. That kind of gets back at some of those initial things I was talking about related to actionable professional development.
Awesome. And so those are some great examples, by the way. And so I think, to me, as we start thinking about the future, what is the next generation of professional development going to look like, in your opinion?
So I think it needs to be flexible in nature, right? In the spirit of robust planning, we want to make sure that we have multiple means by which to meet the learning outcomes that we hope to intend. And there needs to be elements of co-creation that are woven throughout. It's pretty challenging to co-create something like, a monthly workshop, for example, with your community, right? Unless you continue to have those periods of time in which you connect and continue to discuss and build. But even within context of a particular training, there are elements of that you can help ensure that the participants contribute to and feel like they're part of it, rather than just these passive recipients of information, because that's obviously not going to get to those higher level thinking, right? And sort of reflective capabilities that are going to get us to the place we want to be. More facilitation and less regurgitation is the key to that, right? We can't continue to just move forward with the same model, even if it was highly effective, even if satisfaction rates were at 100%, right? It still needs to evolve and grow and make sure that it's something that continues to adapt to the needs of the field. And that's what's going to make professional development take it to the next level.
That's awesome.
And also just helping to ensure that it's data informed, right? That you are taking a very pragmatic approach. Potentially it's a pre-assessment of the folks who are going to show up. You want to find out where they are on that continuum and be able to meet their learning needs effectively. So making sure that your professional development isn't sort of this neat, tight little boxed, inflexible container, right? It needs to be this sort of adaptive, multiple approach.
It's dope. I think that's really thinking about that when crafting the ideas around who's going to be there, their level of capability, knowledge, understanding, and the like, I think would really build a more meaningful and impactful professional development framework. So that's cool. And so my final question is, what do you prefer more, coffee or tea, and which kind?
Definitely coffee. Tea doesn't quite have the pep I need, and that tends to put me to sleep.
Excellent.
So yeah, and I'm flexible on the coffee. Just I'm hoping folks aren't going to come with U-Band or Folgers. We're going to need something a little more up the chain of quality from there.
Excellent. Cool. Well, thank you so much for hanging out today, and I will talk to you later, Brad. Have a good one.
Thanks, Aaron. Cheers.